Thank you, Mary. Muy buenos días a todos. Gracias por su presencia a todos, pero especialmente a los trabajadores que ayudan en la construcción de esta avenida alternativa en el Bypass Trail. Su trabajo fue esencial a este éxito. And good morning, everybody. Thank you all for your presence. Today is a celebration, but it's a celebration marred somewhat by the tragedy to the north that continues to unfold. I know our hearts and our thoughts and prayers go to those who are not in a position to celebrate and won't be for many months. Many have been acknowledged today, and many can't get too much acknowledgement for their work and their support of this project. I also want to welcome friends Luis Salejo, Sam Farr, and Jimmy Panetta for being here today. They've been acknowledged, but your work and your leadership is greatly appreciated. Along with those, yes, thank you. When the bridge was deemed inoperable and closed, there were many proposals as to what we needed to do on an emergency basis. There were proposals for an emergency bridge that could be built in 6 weeks, but it would happen in the pathway where we needed a permanent bridge. The default that worked was the bypass trail. And as Secretary Laird mentioned, when we first engaged state parks, we were told that even a trail, a well-designed and engineered trail, is about a 5 to 7 year process. And then when we proposed this area with a 600-foot elevation, we didn't get a maybe, we got a hard no. That's why having John Laird on speed dial is a very good thing. We convened the meetings, and I would say to Caltrans' credit and state parks with the trail, very quickly we went from a recitation of the bureaucratic impediments to how are we going to do this? And the work of local volunteers who helped, the Chapelet family in coordination, some of the business owners who continued to support their employees who had no real daytime work at their establishments, deployed them to help on the trail. State parks moved from a hard no to a 6-week plan to a trail design where residents wanted to just bushwhack from bottom to top. And that would have worked for some. But it would not have worked if there were an emergency need to take somebody out on a leader with a medical emergency. It wouldn't have worked for much of the workforce that daily parked at the north, walked into jobs at the south. And I found an interesting dynamic of the trail. While it didn't accommodate vehicles, it did create a social dynamic of people, property owners to workforce, visitors to part-time residents, meeting on the trail, people who maybe before waved at each other from their cars, maybe saw each other at the post office or the bakery, stopping both to catch their breath, but also to catch up with one another. And that social dynamic is something that those who shared it, I think, will carry as one of the enduring responses to this disaster and this tragedy. It was a disaster and it was a tragedy, and the precursor was the Soberanus fire, then followed by the storms and the rains. Mother Nature reminds us who is ultimately in charge. Unfortunately, Mother Nature is speaking more loudly and more often. And my final tribute is to the Big Sur community, to the leadership organizations, the Chamber, the Property Owners Association, the Big Sur Fire Brigade, everyone who pulled together, everyone who had an opinion on what should happen, a lot of consternation, a lot of complaining at first. But then the leadership and the community came together, and a calm was instilled, and a sense of the reality of the severity of the loss of this bridge, and people pulling together as Big Sur has and always does, despite very different opinions at Bismack meetings. In the face of disaster, this community comes together. So we're really here today not only to thank Caltrans and the Golden State Construction Company, but to pay tribute and thanks to the Big Sur community because your perseverance, your patience, and your support for this project restores the connectivity of the economy that Kirk and Butch talked about from Santa Cruz to Santa Barbara. This is vital connectivity. So thank you all, and I'll just close with, I do want to acknowledge my staff, Nicole, Tobias, and Alex, who put in a lot of hours working to get some of these things done. Let's give them a big thanks. None of us in elected office do it on our own, and so I just think it's important they be recognized too. And I'll close by presenting a Senate resolution to Caltrans, to District 5, but I'll ask the State Director to come forward. Malcolm, if you would come forward, and I don't know if is District 5 Director Gibbons, please, you come forward also. And on behalf of the people of the state of California, California State Senate, we want to thank you and your team and all of your workers for their tremendous work. Thank you. Timothy Gubbins, another shout out for him. He's our district director of Caltrans and all of the people who pulled together here. Thank you. And then I'd also like to ask the president of the Golden State Bridge Company to come forward, please. We're honoring Dave Riccatello, the president of Golden Gate Bridge. They have some experience on this coast. When I was first in the assembly, we had the Rain Rocks slide, and they used, again, novel dynamic engineering of the viaducts with the canopies designed for sustainable highway to withstand future slides. They've been a partner in this every step of the way. Dave, thank you, and please express our thanks to all of your team.
Thank you.
Otra vez, gracias a todos. Adelante.